Hey there, welcome back to the city building project. This episode is all about patience, because we are terraforming, and as you might know, with terraforming, you need to be patient or you mess up. So, I think it's going to be pretty helpful if we chill out this episode. Take things a little bit slower than usual, be a little bit more calm and collected. If you haven't guessed already, I want to build a mountain, because, I don't know if you've noticed, but this hill's getting pretty full. Don't worry about what's going on over there. We're just gonna leave that for now. And given how much I struggled with this area behind me, and, well, I'm still struggling, I'm just not thinking about it right now because I'm a great procrastinator, I want to build the terrain first, before the city. I know it's kind of betraying the title of the series a little bit, because this is technically planning, but you know what? We're building what we build. When we build it, I think that's good enough. So let's talk a little bit about what the heck is going on here, Kian. What the heck is going on here, Kian? So this is how I kind of plan out terrain. And I made it up as I went along. I've never done terrain like this before, and so this is new to me too. Essentially, all I did was outline where I wanted to place cliffs with my stone brush, and then I placed the cliffs first with my stone brush, then I remembered sand was a thing, and then I used sand for the rest of the cliffs. Because sand is nice that it falls into place, so you don't get any messy peaks and obvious circle brush textures on your cliff faces. It's very fun. I wish I had remembered that when doing the terrain over there. Once I had the outline in place and all the cliffs up, I basically came around and filled the area's lowest point. So if you look over here, I maybe stab myself in the back a little bit by setting up all the way over there. If you look over here, this is the lowest point on this sort of plateau. So this is where I filled it with grass. I just did the / fill command. Like that. That's not fill, Kian, come on. My keyboard skills go out the window as soon as I start recording. Just like that. And then I just fill this area, and so this is going to basically act as a base on which we can place the rest of the terrain, because of course we're not just leaving it like this. This would be kind of absurd. It wouldn't make sense for a variety of reasons, and it would be very flat and boring, and we don't like flat and boring terrain. Although the terrain will be flat enough so that we can build things on it and not have a really bad time. Oh, and this thing up here, the sand thing, is just, it's going to be another plateau. It's just a cliff right now. I'm going to come back to it later. Well, you'll see. You'll see. So, apparently, 2 hours isn't enough time for me to surface this whole thing. But that's not an unexpected development, because, of course, we are taking things rather slow, as we've established, so I'm pretty satisfied with the progress we've made. Well, I've made. What is this progress? Explain it to us. Yeah, I suppose that's why I'm here, isn't it? This is, it's very simple. It just takes a while. It's basically just where I trace the edges of the elevation changes I want on the hill. So I go on basically what height things were when I left them with the brush, and then I smooth things out as needed. And so as you can see right here, basically what I'm doing is I'm tracing this sort of bump around, probably up until that other side, and then I'm just going to fill it with grass and repeat again for the next one until I get to the top. And when I'm finished, I'll have a nice fancy slope. Now, you might be thinking, uh-oh, this looks pretty boring. This terrain isn't exactly all that interesting, and it's, well, not supposed to be, because, of course, we are going to be building on it in future episodes of this series. So I want to make it as building-friendly as possible. That sort of overtakes the importance of having good-looking terrain. Now, obviously, I still want the terrain to look pretty decent, so I am putting effort into it, but, you know, I prefer the buildings to come first. Speaking of buildings coming first, I want to talk about this little bit over here. So, this part's a little bit janky, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's quite janky because I didn't plan it out again. You know, cue the series title. I basically wanted it to mirror the street on this side because I want to put more houses like that over in this little area here, just to kind of tie the whole thing together and make it look nice and what's the word? Nice and complete. That's not the word, but it's a word, and I'll use it for now. And so, in making this thing sort of mirror that side, I have a bit of a problem. On both sides, actually. I just haven't quite developed that problem yet. And that is trying to make the terrain match up with whatever the heck is going on here. Because my original plan was to have some kind of cliff here with this banister, sprawling on top of it. But well, I mean, as you can tell, I'm a bit of a terrain novice, so making one that looks natural while also conforming to this shape is going to be a bit tough. And so I think it will be most helpful if I, again, like the theme of this episode kind of dictates, take it slow and do one little thing at a time, such as maybe the road or something. I don't know yet. I haven't thought that far ahead. But first, of course, before I do any of that, I need to finish this hill, because if I don't, I'm never going to. Alright, so this is taking longer than I thought. You've never heard that before. That's not something that goes on in this series, what? And yeah, I'm getting a little bit tired of this terraforming as well. I naively thought this would only take a couple sessions to, finish the main shape, but no, it's been several days and several 2-hour sessions of building, and we're not even close to done. So I'm gonna leave it around for now. We're gonna move on to something else, because as kind of tiring as this building is, it also gave me a chance to kind of think about what I wanted to do all the way over there. So let's talk about that. And since we haven't done a planning session with signs in a little while, I thought that might be fun to do for this. So, road goes across. What do with bridge? Well, first of all, I think we need a little bit of backstory with this bridge. You see, this bridge was kind of supposed to be here before I planned the university or any of this, or even this. In fact, this whole hill here is a consequence of this bridge. I wouldn't have built this hill here if I did not have this bridge here. And so I'm a little bit attached to the bridge. So I need an excuse for the bridge to be here. Now, my idea for sort of the lore behind the bridge itself is that it is an older piece of architecture that was here before this area was developed into what it is now. So, it was the olden day way to cross from this hill to this hill. So I need an excuse for this road in particular to have not been here at the time this bridge was built. And my first idea for that was to incorporate some kind of obstacle that would make building the road more expensive or more labor intensive than it would to build the bridge. Hence, the bridge was built first, and they wouldn't bother doing anything here. So I thought, with following that train of thought, lots of thinking going on, Kian. That's pretty dangerous. That there could be large rocks or boulders that have been obviously cut or moved aside with the development of this road. So this road being a modern construction, you can use modern machinery, modern engineering practices and stuff to basically make it happen, make it more convenient. Because as fun as this bridge is, it's a little bit inconvenient, and it doesn't really allow for travel below it down the sides of this hill, which is why I put this road here in the first place. So we need to kind of have some kind of indication that this road was developed later on as a result of advances in technology. I'm being super convoluted, but there's my thought process for that. Also, oh yeah, I completely forgot. I glossed right over this. I redesigned the bridge entirely to kind of reflect its older nature. So I did a nice gradient. I really like the way mossy cobblestone and this I was gonna call it granite. I meant copper blends with the stone brick. That's pretty cool. So there's that. And then I thought this little hut on this side, and perhaps I'd built another one on this side, could be sort of modern additions to the architecture. Tour time. All right, let's start with the place, the pond down here, because this was kind of what I centered this whole area around. Now, I didn't explain this before. I talked about the rocks, but I didn't talk about the pond. I wanted a pond here to make sure that this area over here was the only place that this bridge could have been built, because, you know, it's easier to build it down with foundations down there than to have the foundations in the pond there, and then I've got this hill to prevent it from going across here. So I think we've covered all the bases that force this bridge to exist. Anyways, I need to focus. Focus on the pond, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, I noticed that these could be placed in water. I didn't actually realize that until I tried to. I just thought, okay, I may as well try. And yeah, so they look like, they actually look more like lily pads than these lily pads because they have an attachment point to the bottom, which is pretty interesting. Also, I tried to place the coral fan on this with World Edit, but it didn't work. So we just put them on slabs instead for our fancy pond flowers. I really like this pond. Okay, moving on. This bridge, I wanted to make sort of like a bit of a sticky outy sore thumb type of deal. Like, you know, modern architecture that has been recently revamped. Perhaps maybe there was an older bridge here during the original construction of this road and, of course, the mining through these rocks. And then it was torn down and replaced with this, perhaps, with this fancy new lighting. So, you know, I thought it might help make the city feel a little bit more lived in, a little bit more dynamic, per se. I just kind of threw it together. I didn't really think too hard about the design, so it's pretty simplistic, but I think it does the job it's supposed to. Now, the road, on the other hand, connecting to the bridge, is not modern at all. It's very worn down and quite blocky. It's honestly kind of a lazy design, and as a result, I've covered it in leaves, and that makes it all better. I'm very proud of my ability to cover things that I don't like with leaves. That's for sure. Anyways, the thing I wanted to point out with this part of the road, though, is the railing on the side here and on this other side. Because I struggled quite a lot with trying to find something that would fit. Originally, I had logs here, and then I put some fence posts. And neither of those things really worked because they were both too bulky, and they kind of detracted from the attention you could give everything else. And so the trapdoors are a nice happy medium because they're nice and tiny and don't take up too much of the space on the computer screen, except when you look at them really close. Another cool thing that worked well with these trapdoors is that I could continue them up here, and they look kind of like a little support. Where I live, there are lots of mountains, and these mountains sometimes go next to roads, of course, and when you have a cliff face next to a road, there's usually some kind of netting or fence that prevents falling rocks from going on the road, and that's kind of what I thought this could be. It was a pretty much an accident, because I was trying to figure out what they would do over there, not necessarily over here, but the result is that kind of effect. I know it's a little bit more obscure than some other things in this city, but it's a neat detail, I think, nonetheless. Anyways, there's not too much more to see. Over here, there's some trees. There's these hanging pots I thought might bring some life to this area, just for some color. Same with this barricade and with the mushrooms and stuff over here and over there. And then over here, it's pretty much the same, except it's not, the end of the road isn't covered by leaves, so you can actually see the pretty obtuse design on its own. Finally, one of the things that I find most controversial about this whole area are these things. They have gone through so many iterations, and they're not really native to this design, because I thought of them so long ago, well, not so long ago, a couple months, but still long ago in terms of this build, and so it's kind of hard to make them match without dramatically altering this build itself. And I didn't really want to base this build's palette and whatever off of these, so they do look a little bit out of place, and you can see I've played a little bit with the shape before they just kind of went straight down, and I thought that was a little bit too intrusive. So they've kind of taken a back seat, and honestly, I'm feeling a little bit better about them, but they still feel slightly out of place to me. Maybe it's just because I still have a whole row over there to deal with. I'm not sure. Anyway, speaking of dealing with other things, let's talk about what's to happen next. Okay, so I've flown up here and turned off the shaders so I can actually see everything without making the footage unwatchable, to kind of put in perspective what we've done this episode. You see, that over there took me about 4 to 5 hours to finish. It's not that big, it doesn't look like that much, but a lot of just kind of fiddling around had to occur for me to get it to where it is now. And so, you know, it's a kind of perspective of how long the rest of this is going to take. Now, this whole area is probably going to be a little bit simpler to detail than that, because this over here had a whole other dynamic of trying to make the bridge right there feel like it fit. And I don't have to do that with this. But still, the time it took over there, you know, is still kind of somewhat representative of the time this will take equivalently with the area and whatever. You know what I mean. So I kind of want to end the episode here. My voice is getting tired. I'm getting tired. I've been building this for about 2 weeks now. It's been fun, but tiring, as you can see. So yeah, end of the episode soon. But first, I've got a question for you. Do you want me to do more terraforming episodes and just kind of go through it episode by episode whenever I feel like it? Or do you want me to do this terraforming more off camera and check in periodically while I do other things? Now, the reason I ask is because, well, this terraforming is fun to do and fun to talk about. It, of course, is tiring and can get a little bit repetitive to talk about. So I thought, you know, I haven't made up my mind yet about what I want to do, so I thought I figured I'd ask you. Yeah, that is getting to the end of the episode, isn't it? Oh yeah, and I came over here to show you that this was going to be a lake, and then I just completely forgot to talk about it. Awesome. Great stuff. Anyways, that's enough of that, I think. So, well, that's the end of the episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments or questions or whatever, feel free to leave them in the comment section as usual, and have a nice day.